Let's say that you have a huge emergency that happens at your company. What is the best response for a leader to do in a situation like that? Should you panic? Should you take a stress nap? Maybe you should meditate for 2 hours. Or better yet, scream at your employees.
Eric, the answer is hopefully none of the above. Today, we're going to talk about best practices for how leaders should respond when a crisis arises in their company.
Our goal for this episode for you is if you find yourself in these moments of crisis, the specific steps you can take around communication to calm your stakeholders and get through the crisis. And today's episode is inspired by a blog post that our founder, Elizabeth Yin at Hustle Fund, recently wrote called Leadership During a Crisis, which you can find on her blog, elizabethyin.com. And we're going to cover some of those key lessons from this great article in this Uncapped Notes episode. So, Janelle, what is the biggest mistake that leaders often make during moments of crisis?
Really, it's kind of simple. The biggest failure is a failure to communicate. Leadership teams often, they want to have a full picture. They want to get all the facts straight. They want to have a sense of everything that's going on. And as a result, they wait too long to talk to their stakeholders, their employees about what's going on.
You know, Janelle, we had a situation like this pretty recently. And in fact, we made an emergency episode of Uncapped Notes to talk about Silicon Valley Bank. I think we really witnessed this as a team about this exact principle, which was a situation was happening. The entire market had very limited information about what was actually going on with the bank as it seemed to be collapsing. But we were sharing updates in real time. And I was also a bit nervous that we didn't have any of the answers. But ironically, just as you said, it seemed like the stakeholders were just appreciative that we were aware and trying to do something about the situation. So if you don't have all the answers or the solution, what is the thing that you're really trying to solve for when you communicate?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about the content of what you're communicating. It's thinking about, okay, everyone's thinking about this. Everyone is aware that something is happening. How do I want them to feel? Do I want them to feel reassured? Do I want them to feel calm? And then figure out what you can communicate so that you can help them feel that way. So there are 3 things. 1, how do you want them to feel? 2, can you just tell them that you're aware of the situation and that you will share more information as things unfold? And 3, let them know that your door is open. If they have any specific concerns, general concerns, they just want to talk, let them know you're available.
Okay, so I want to break down a couple of these things that you just said. So let's talk about the emotional side of it, because I think this is a very important takeaway for Uncapped Notes listeners to understand. I saw 2 forms of leaders during this crisis. One is actually the direct leadership, the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank. He didn't actually really understand the emotional quality of it. A lot of what he was describing was very technical. It was like, your deposits are safe because we've taken these countermeasures. If we move money like this or have this kind of fundraise and like people kind of like respect this environment, it was a little bit almost like an economics professor talking to me. And we saw what happened. How much was actually withdrawn within 24 hours, Janelle, after the CEO said that very technical announcement?
$42 billion.
42 freaking billion dollars, the biggest bank run in US history. Okay, Janelle, so that was the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank's response, very technical. But we actually had a different leader that began to emerge during this crisis, Congressman Jeff Jackson. Can you describe a little bit about what his response was? Was it very technical?
Exactly the opposite. So here's this congressman who's posting a TikTok video in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. He's in his living room. He's got a zip-up hoodie on, and it's almost as if he's there saying, hey, I know it's the middle of the night and that you are also up very worried about what's going on. Come sit down with me in my living room and I'm going to tell you about what action we're taking. We all got together on Zoom and here's the situation. And you could almost like sip on a cup of tea and go back to sleep and say, okay, I'm going to get a few more hours of sleep now.
It was amazing, this response, Janelle. For me, it almost felt like when I was a child and I broke my arm. My dad, he kind of like comes to me late at night at bed. He's like, hey, bud, I know you had a hard day today. Mom and dad love you so much, and you're going to be okay. Stroking my hair kind of feeling. And the really amazing thing about this TikTok that I hope actually our Uncapped Notes viewers can actually check out as well, because it was just like 2 minutes long, but it hit on the emotional qualities that really did a lot to calm the markets with not very much technical discussion at all. So at the top of this conversation, Janelle, you're mentioning, you want to make sure they touch on the emotions of the situation, that you're going to keep people informed, you're on top of the situation, and that your door is always open. I think one thing that made me really proud of the recent Silicon Valley Bank crisis that we went through is our team was able to exercise these things. And I want to sort of touch on like the communication part of it. We were sending a lot of emails, probably 3 or 4 per day to our founders, maybe a slightly less frequency to our own investors. And the response was nothing but support. I think that we witnessed this firsthand in a very big way at Hustle Fund with our leadership, in that just being able to admit with intellectual honesty that we don't know all the things, but spoon feeding the information that we were learning along the way really did a big service to us in strengthening the relationship to our community. This isn't one of those situations I took away, Janelle, where if you don't have the answers and you're kind of communicating in real time, that you end up looking like some uninformed jerk. It's almost the exact opposite. And not that many people, I think, in these kinds of situations will understand that just being honest and in real time and with the doors open and trying to have a calm demeanor and just focusing on this problem solving mindset will go a really far way in strengthening everything.
The biggest takeaway here for leadership during a crisis, your number one responsibility is both communication and morale of your team.
That's right. And I hope that there are some good lessons that come out of today's episode for you as leaders when you go through these moments, because they're inevitable. And if you like the advice that Janelle and I shared in today's episode of Uncapped Notes, don't forget to click on that like button, share us a comment, and we hope to see you in a future episode of Uncapped Notes.